Hello there, and you are there, and I am here. This is of course Killin time, and today's episode is about...
And she was getting followed by what they call
Stocky man.
Or Stocky man.
Stocky man. So it's
Stocky man. Stocky man. Right?
The Stocky man.
Stocky man.
Stocky guy.
Stocky man. He's well known, called the Stocky man.
That's right, the Stocky guy.
Stocky man. He's well known, called the Stocky man.
Or, as he seems to have melded into recently, according to some people online, Stocky with an A. Now, right away I'll just say Stocky with an A, Stocky with an O, very different Stocky, but it's a nice image for these people to put a stock. It makes it sound like Slender Man. Stocky man.
Oh shit, Slender Man has been spotted. Subject is wearing tuxedo and the TV is going fuzzy. Repeat, TV is going fuzzy. I am attempting to flank. This forest is closed, asshole.
So yeah, I'm going to have a little look at this one. This one's brilliant in the respect that this doesn't make any sense if you pay attention to it, and neither does any of Luke's Army's reasoning. But it's a really big thing for them, which is even stranger to me. So what I want to do is look at this as we normally do, with a couple of clips from Scott Forbes and one from Sandra Lean. Now, what we'll do is, there's actually a couple of points that I want to talk about in regards to the story, not only the sighting itself, but also the handling of it during the appeal for Donald Finlay. So let's start off as we always do with a little clip, and let's start with Scott Forbes on the James English podcast. I'm talking about it. Can I just say in advance as well, I have, because of all the stuff that I've watched, I've noticed a couple of things about habits that people have when they're talking. I'm an R. That's what one of the things I do, and it's ridiculous. It even annoys me. However, I've noticed that Mr. Forbes likes to give himself kind of stage directions at points. In this clip, and in another clip, which I'll show at some other point, and we can maybe put them together, he comes out with the line, I do that with my hands. Like he's actually telling his brain he's supposed to show you the size of the knife. And by the way, if that's the size of the knife that someone's holding, that's a small katana. But anyway, let's play. I'm well sidetracked, and we're not even 3 minutes into this. So let's play. You can tell I'm enjoying this one. Mr. Forbes James English podcast appearance, and then we'll come back and we'll go to Ms. Lean.
In 2013, the Scottish Criminal Case Review Commission, they write to Donald Finlay, 5 or 6 days, 7 days after Jodi was killed. Two witnesses come forward and they say a positive identification of Jodi on East Houses Road, followed by a man. They called the man the Stocky man, right? First, the Michelin man to start off with, and then they called him the Stocky man, large head, wavy hair, wearing a backpack. Joseph Jones wore a backpack everywhere he went, carrying a large bowie knife. I did that with my hands because he was that paranoid he couldn't leave the house without having a weapon. And so he gets identified. One witness says that's definitely Joseph Jones, and then he gets the wrong person. The person he identifies wasn't in the country. But a woman then watches Jodi's funeral and says, that's the man I seen following Jodi. So she picks Joseph Jones. The last man ever to see Jodi alive is her brother, right? 15 minutes, 10 minutes before the police put the time on murder. So, and
there we have a brief rundown of the Stocky man from Scott Forbes. Now, I'll show Sandra Lean's video here. There is small differences, and there are the same lies through both clips, but I won't compare them right away because let's make this a slow burn and show where the ridiculousness really falls in all this. and we'll look at a couple of news reports from the time as well, how they don't match up with what either are saying. But there we go, there's Scott's kind of rundown of the Stocky man. 2 people, independent witnesses, see a man following Jodi. Now, you know, one of the witnesses was able to then confirm that by seeing Joseph Jones at the funeral, and they were able to look at it. Well, I'll go into that as well, and how that doesn't make any sense, and how it's not actually true and doesn't match up with what was actually said at the time. So we'll go into that. But for now, let's have a little look at Sandra Lean's podcast appearance. I believe this was a Sean Atwood. And I know this might be somewhat hypocritical, perhaps, coming from myself. But this was a tough watch, this one. This really was. The host himself, there was at one point, he had actually asked a question about, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but he'd asked a question about how the Jones family felt, or he started to make that question, It took him, I think, 2 minutes and 45 seconds to really get through this verbal effluvia, for want of a better description. It was, God, that was a very hard watch. But here's a little bit of what Sandra Lean had to say about the Stocky guy.
Stocky man, he's well known, called the Stocky man.
So who reported the Stocky man?
2 independent witnesses, one of whom knew Jodi, said they saw Jodi and this Stocky man following closely behind her on the road just outside her house. One of those witnesses then came back and said she thought she knew who he was. She thought she'd seen him again on some television footage amongst a group of males who looked very similar. And she picked this particular one out and she said, that's him. And that was never released to the defence.
There we have a shorter little kind of brief explanation from Sandra Lean in terms of the Stocky man as well. Now I'll put this here before I forget. The sentence that one independent witness could positively ID Jodi. Now I believe Scott Forbes said something similar as well. I find it strange that someone could positively ID Jodi and at the time not be able to positively ID who they put as the Stocky man, as her big brother Joseph Jones. They know Jodi. I'm pretty sure they'd probably know that she had family if they knew her, and they could positively ID her. So you'd think there would be some knowledge there, or anyway, that's a bit of a strange one. But let's just say that they only know Jodi, and they don't know that she has a family, or they don't know any of her family. Should I say? Let's not be hyperbolic. So we'll go with that. However, there's 2 independent witnesses in both stories. One knows Jodi, one believes that they could positively ID them again around the group of males that look similar. Sandra puts it at 10 weeks. Scott Forbes puts it at the funeral itself for Jodi Jones. So, what's strange about that? Now, let's have a little look at a news piece that came out at the time with a little bit of information from the police themselves, who were looking to trace this Stocky man, giving a description of them and the ins and outs. I think we might be good with one news piece. I think I found one that kind of covers everything here. What I'll do is I'll just read this. This is from the Daily Mail. Put up the screenshots, obviously. And link it in the description so you can confirm it's real. So, forgive me whilst I try and read through this.
Alright, let's go.
Detectives hunting the killer of Jodi Jones have received reports of the first possible sightings of the teenager on the night she died, police say today. Jodi's body was discovered by a woodland path near her home on the outskirts of Dalkeith, Midlothian, 16 days ago. 2 independent witnesses have now contacted police about seeing a girl who fits Jodi's description on Monday, June 30th. They also told police they saw a man walking closely behind the girl along East Houses Road towards the entrance to a path where Jodi's body was later found. One witness told police they had seen the same person a week later on the night of the police reconstruction. Detectives are eager to trace the man who they say could be a key witness in the investigation. The sightings follow repeated appeals made by detectives for witnesses to Jodi's last movements after she left her home in Parkhead Place in the East Houses area to meet her boyfriend. The 14-year-old never returned home, and her partially clothed and mutilated body was found several hours later by family and friends. So, man described. Detective Inspector Tom Martin, one of the lead officers in the case today, both witnesses saw a girl walking in East Houses Road towards the entrance of, I said Roman, but that's Rowansdyke Pathway at around 5 p.m. and both also noticed a man walking closely behind the girl. Interestingly, one of the witnesses believes they then saw the same man again on Monday, July 7th, 1 week later, the night of the police reconstruction. If this was the case, we need to trace this person as a matter of urgency, as he may have been something important, seen something important, on that night Jodi died. So even then, well, just a quick aside, he might have seen something important. The man who police are keen to trace was white, stocky, and 5'7" to 5'10" tall. He had short, tidy brown or ginger hair, perhaps curly or wavy, on top. The witnesses said he appeared to be in his late teens or early 20s and was wearing a dark coloured sweatshirt top with maybe a hood and dark trousers, possibly jogging bottoms, and he may have also been carrying a backpack on his shoulder. The same man seen again a week later on July 7th, one of the witnesses thinks he saw the same man again in the same area, according to police, who believe the person may be local. On that day at 5 p.m, police staged a reconstruction of Jodi's last movements, with a woman police officer taking the part of Jodi. According to the male witness, the man was walking in Morris Road at around 6 p.m. on the way to East Houses Road. He was wearing a denim jacket and carrying a black laptop-style case or holdall. The witness watched him meet two friends who were around the same age, probably in their late teens, according to the police. The friends gave each other a high-five style welcome handshakes before pulling each other in for a hug. One of the young men was on a bike and wearing shorts. The other appeared to be carrying a videotape. Both were wearing dark clothing, and the group was standing in Morris Road, just past the Morris Club. So, what's the importance and what's the differences there that we can see? Well, the idea that the witness had seen the Stocky man at the funeral of Jodi Jones and kind of, said that's the same person, blah blah blah, whatever it was, the mince that came out of the mouth there. That doesn't really make a lot of sense when the witness says that they saw them a week later. Now, for some that might look at that and just think, well, maybe they're just getting the things confused because it was the same day. I believe Jodi Jones was buried around about the 10 weeks that Sandra Lean puts it down at. So you can see she's saying the witness said they saw the Stocky man at the funeral in a group of similar looking men. Now that's one that sticks out, similar looking men. So if you look at the description for the Stocky man, it has what they say brown or ginger, wavy or curly hair. Now in all the photos I can see, that does not match the hair colour of Joseph Jones. It's that simple. It's a different colour of hair. I believe Joseph Jones has black, well, very, very dark brown or black hair, and that from all the photos that I've seen, and brown or ginger wavy hair does not match up with his description. So right off the bat, the idea that the Stocky man could be him is a bit strange to me when the hair colour doesn't match. A lot of the time, people had put this down to one of the moped boys, as they like to call them, John Ferris, because Ferris had cut his hair in the days after the murder, so they believed that he was trying to hide his identity. Indeed, Miss Lean has tried to make the Stocky man several people over the years. Before Scott Forbes decided that it was Joseph Jones, Ms. Lean actually decided that the Stocky man was Stephen Kelly. At the time, he was Janine Jones' boyfriend. Yes. One of the search party, and the search trio. But it was 4 that were searching, by the way. Why is it always a search trio? They're just there was 4 of them anyway. They sidetracked again. The idea that it was Kelly was obviously used by Ms. Lean because she was looking for another scapegoat. She always has been. It's always been someone else that's been involved. I'm surprised she's not tried to blame Shane Mitchell, to be honest with you, but hey, there's still time.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
So, yeah, she's put on several people, and now it's Joseph Jones, but the fact that the hair colour doesn't match up just right away, just like, what? The idea as well that they had spotted them at the funeral, but yet we see in the paper that it was actually a week later that they had identified them at the police reconstruction. Wearing very different clothes as well, not with a backpack, with a hold-all. Is it even the same person? I mean, that seems quite different, but I don't know. I've never been a denim jacket wearer, I'll tell you that much. But these guys, obviously, I don't know if they were traced or if we have... There's a gang of youths. Well, to say gang, I don't mean to make them sound scary, but there's a couple of youths that are seen on the reconstruction night that then they would just, Scott Forbes and Sandra Lean just shift straight on to the funeral, because obviously if it's a funeral, then that's family members that are there, so we can start to blame Joseph Jones. But he's not got the same colour of hair as the description that was given. I don't know about height. Maybe the guy's 5'7" to 5'10". Seems like a pretty average height for somebody that age, especially, so that sounds plausible. But I suppose anybody in that group of people, including Luke Mitchell, would probably be around about 5'7" to 5'10". So the hair colour stands out immensely. Now, Scott Forbes as well always makes a point of just trying to tie everything in. We see in the news report that he may have had a backpack. He may have had a backpack. But in Scott Forbes' version of events, he does have a backpack. And Joseph Jones always carries a backpack, because he has to add layers onto it, because the guy's lying. And I think over the last little while, what's become more evident is there are people who blatantly understand that Scott Forbes is a charlatan, for want of a better word. He's a carny. What other words are there? Get a thesaurus out here. Grifter, I suppose. Good old-fashioned liar. One of the worst things is when I do screen captures, I suppose that could be when it comes to his chat, a crapture. When I do screen captures, I have to make sure that obviously the audio on them doesn't, because you can hear it sometimes, it does suffer when you're doing that. But every time I do one with the James English podcast especially, I have to look at the line, Detective Scott Forbes. And it just makes me kind of giggle inside every single time. This is the falsehood that's put out by the podcasters that have him on the show. Detective Scott Forbes. The only time he has been near a detective's badge was when someone got it from out a lucky bag. There is actually, do you want a laugh? Do you want... Here, I'll give you a laugh.
Now, I'm a lawyer. I think I'm well trained and pretty in the know-how.
I enjoyed that one myself. This is just an absolute twisting of everything that actually happened to suit a new agenda. Their agenda, which is that protect Luke Mitchell at all costs, even to the point where we're just willing to shift dates, make up things, and we, again, nothing to back this up at all. Now, I understand that, of course, a lot of things when it comes to legality, you can't share absolutely everything that's been used in a case. The transcripts are a bit different because we're listening to, well, we're reading what is happening in court. But I don't suppose you're able to slap up every single thing in a defence case. But then we have the other side of the coin where Mr. Forbes will do things like this.
Joseph Jones was paranoid with smoking cannabis. His medical records, and I will show you, I'm going to make you privy. They asked me online, you can't make these things public, as you know, They want me to publish legal papers, and I'm not willing to do that for people online. But before I leave here today, I'll sit you down, I'll show you medical records on my phone. And it tells you that he's a paranoid, psychotic, violent man.
So that is highly, highly against the law. And why does Scott Forbes have medical records for someone on his phone? What is that all about? Why is Scott Forbes walking about on a daily basis with someone's private medical records on his phone? Why? No one else would do that. No professional would do that, even if it's a doctor. Would you be happy if your doctor was saying, well, I just put your medical records on my phone because I want to take them home over the weekend. Obviously my kid was playing Candy Crush, so hopefully he's not done anything. This is a dereliction of any kind of duty that he feels he has. This man is out for clout. As I've said online, he's a clout vampire, and he hides instead of debates. And what he does is he'll say, can we get, what was the thing I said I saw? Screenshot for the blocked. That was his comment. Problem is, Mr. Forbes, it's you that's blocked everybody. So unblock us and answer to some of these lies. And they are lies. I don't care what excuse you want to come up with. The latest one in terms of the statement that was given by Jimmy Jones, who'd been dead for 5 years, you denied that. I will continually share the screenshot of you saying that until you admit you lied about it. Maybe it was too many vodkas, Mr. Forbes, but you need to start admitting to your lies. What you're doing instead now is throwing Miss Lean under the bus to take some focus off yourself. And where's Miss Lean in all this? Hiding. No updates. No updates on the updates. Absolutely nothing. Because the two of you being found out, and now, like the Joker says, you're going to eat each other. However, there's a lot more to this kind of claim, because it's used for a couple of different angles. The next angle I find is very strange, and it's concerned with how Donald Finlay would have dealt with this information. Now, this is where Scott Forbes and Sandra Lean probably differ most when it comes to this little porky pie. What we'll do is, just to show how they differ, I'm going to go in a different order, and I'll show you Ms. Lean first, and then Mr. Forbes. But what I'll do is, rather than cut back to me, we'll just slap them back to back. You can see if you can spot the difference, and then we'll talk about it when we come back on the other side. See you there.
In 2012-13, when the SCCRC were doing their review, they went to Donald Findlay and said, well, you know, if that had been released at the time, would it have been of significance? Would you have used it? And Donald Findlay quite rightly said, I can't tell you what my strategy would have been on the basis of something I didn't have. You know, I don't know what my strategy would have been had I had it. But they decided that the witnesses' recall in 2014 was better than a recall at the time, and that no harm had been done.
In 2013, the Scottish Criminal Case Review Commission wrote to Donald Findlay, and they asked Donald Findlay, if you had known at the time that Joseph Jones was following Jodi, would you have incriminated him? And Donald Findlay tells him, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I don't know if I would have done that, and I can't answer it. Sometimes to incriminate a family member, sometimes we look bad on a jury, so you have to assess that. So you wouldn't answer it, you wouldn't commit yourself.
In one version of events, Ms. Lean says that Donald Finlay couldn't tell them what their strategy would be if he had that information. Mr. Forbes decides that Finlay takes another approach where he probably wouldn't look to accuse a family member because it would look bad for the jury. However, during the court case, he does ask other family members, including the moped boy, John Ferris, if he killed Jodi. So, he did do that. So why would he not be willing? Anyway, your story is very different from Ms. Lean's, Mr. Forbes. In yours, Mr. Finlay seems to give quite a explanation as to what would happen and how he would think. But with Ms. Lean, he just couldn't answer that. He just couldn't answer that. So which one is it, guys? One of you want to pick? One of you want to say the other one's lying? What one? Who's lying? You guys are doing a really good job of staying united as a team for Justice for Luke when you can't stick to the same stories. The reason you can't stick to the same stories is because liars tend to get found out. And you're getting found out. Getting found out by, well, you've been getting found out by me for 8 months. Now you're getting found out by people who used to be admins for your groups because you lied to them for years and years. And you're getting found out by other people who also highlight things with me, which was fantastic. I want to give a little credit to Smart Duck, who pointed out something for today on X. I hate calling it that. So I can't take credit for this one, but I do want to show this one in its entirety as well. Before I get onto that, let's just kind of wrap up a wee bit of what we're doing, what I've done here. So we see in the news reports that the Stocky man had brown, curly or wavy hair, may have had a backpack, and was seen a week later with other youths on Morris Road. Then the story that comes from the Carneys, the two Carneys here, roll up, they tell us that the person saw the Stocky man at the funeral for Jodi Jones, which, as I say, was in September 3rd, I believe it was. So it was June 30th, or the night of the murder itself. September 3rd, that's quite a long time. But September 3rd was the day of the funeral and the day of Luke Mitchell's Sky interview, if you want to confirm that, because that was on the same day where Luke Mitchell did not listen to the family's request and decided to take his mum, his then girlfriend. Yeah, there's a story. That's a story for another time, and that's a totally separate video, and that is coming. And his dog, because obviously you take a dog to a graveyard, that's how you show respect. Take a dog into a graveyard and smoke a cigarette at a grave. Jesus, man. Absolutely no tact whatsoever. Again, sidetracked. This whole stuff is absolute nonsense. There is no way that these stories are the same thing. This is a twist on what's actually happened, and it's a lie that they can't keep consistent. They can't keep anything consistent. They're like it's like storytime diarrhea. That's the consistency of this. So they need to kind of pick their lies as well. So did Donald Finlay say that he wouldn't do it because it was a family member, or did he say he couldn't tell you what his strategy would have been? I actually, if we were to believe either of the two of them, which is really giving them more credit than they're worth, I'd probably tend to go with Ms. Lean, because I don't think Donald Finlay would be able to say what he had done, you know, after the fact with any of it. That's not to say that any of it's goddamn well true in the first place, because it's coming from these two. But yeah, so the actual review board as well saw through all that nonsense. I do want to do a video about Mark Kane. I had one banked, but a lot of things moved on, and I think it's better to kind of add to it, because there's been a little more chatter after the fact as well. But yeah, I want to, as I say, we'll do a wrap up and everything of what we spoke about. But before we do that, and to take a little sidetrack, I do want to show something that Smart Duck pointed out on X. So credit to him. This is not mine, but something that he spotted. So here we go.
Where he did the test it's a of lawyers' offices. It's where, if you have a lawyer's visit, it's where you go. It's so guards can see what's going on. So you've got, say, 5 rooms, but each wall between them is glass. So you can see from room 1 down to room 5 because of glass. And then at the front, there's glass. And of course, the guards were doing faces and carrying on. So the polygraph examiner said to Luke, you have to close your eyes and just block everything out. He said, this isn't the ideal place to be in to do this. He said, but this is where we've been given, this is where we have to do it. You're going to have to close your eyes and just forget that these people are out there. So that's why he closed his eyes.
Who was the man who did the polygraph?
Terry Mullen.
So the guy came up, a guy called Terry Mullins came up from London, and we were allowed into the prison, and then we were taken through to basically just a goldfish bowl, glass-sided. And when we got in there, Terry got all the stuff set up, and there were prison officers walking past outside. Everybody obviously was dead curious, and people pulling faces and just trying to put him off, really. So it was Terry that said to him, just shut your eyes, just ignore them, because I don't want you getting distracted by what's going on outside. And that's why he closed his eyes.
For the privacy in Luke's case as well, in the prison, should he have got more privacy when he done the polygraph test?
The issue with, this done in a legal room, so it's not done in open visiting room.
And there was glass panels around this room also? No,
there was only Luke. That there was no glass panels at the side that people were in. It was only the viewing thing, which is a good thing. You need a guard. I mean, nobody knows what a prisoner, not talking about Luke, a prisoner in particular, may do or not do, especially when they're given the information from myself, because I do tell them their result.
That's just a little aside, but I found that quite interesting. I want to do something on the lie detector tests themselves anyway. I believe there's far too much weight put on the validity of lie detector tests with no knowledge on it. So I want to look at some of the science behind that and show why this is absolutely asinine. It does not matter. Moot point, so to speak. But lie detector tests, who cares, really? However, that was a little interesting one. The 3 of those people aren't telling the same story either. And that's what essentially this has become, is noticing the fact that no one can stick to the same story, even though they're supposed to be telling the one story. I find it really ironic that they talk about change statements and people like stories, the search tree or not matching up. The two, again, big bunny ears, big quotation marks here, the two experts can't agree with each other. This Stocky man stuff is absolute nonsense, and the idea that it is, mutated online as to a definite in facts, we're really looking at that. The online kind of presence from Luke's army, just to be honest, over the last kind of, especially 48 hours or so, they're just crazies. They really are. I know that's going to sound so simplistic and derogatory and all the rest of it, but they're just crazy. And to be honest, I'll allow myself a swear on this one. They're fucking stupid. They're fucking stupid. Honestly, I have seen in the last 24 hours, people have been accused of being Jodi Jones. People have been accused of being, was it Sharon, the girl that left admin team for Sandra Lean. I mean, this person that was accused of being Sharon has an actual online presence on Facebook, her whole life and everything, and she's been going into detail. It's Susan. You might be in the chat, Susan. Hello. But this woman has made no bones and no secrets about the fact that she was a legal secretary, and she knows ins and outs of specifics when it comes to appeals and how things work. And then suddenly she was Sharon, and there is a run of accusations of who this person is. This person's Stephen Kelly, this person's Judith Jones, this person's... I mean, guys, you're wrong every single time. Strike out. Walk off the pitch. You're shit at this game. Oh, God, it hurts my head even to think about it. So that whole thing, I've actually made a conscious effort. These people are just mental. And they need to kind of... We've done a little video on some of their behaviours, but some of the... I mean, one of the guys is trying to slut-shame women online. Most of them are misogynists, really, like Scott Forbes. Scott Forbes is a misogynist. You argue the case if you want. You're wrong, but you can argue the case. Sandra Lean's a pseudoscientist. Our chat on blood and white, that... Whoa, she's got some out there thoughts. I think she's actually a flat earther. And... Sorry. And the ideas that they come up with when they can't match what was reported at the time, and they can't match each other, I think is absolutely ridiculous. So we've got the two witnesses that saw the Stocky man. However, they saw him a week later with some other youths. Was he ever identified? Who knows? It wasn't Joseph Jones because he's got a different hair colour. If anything, it would probably be closer suited to, from what I can see, to be probably John Ferris, I would think. But at the end of the day, how would he be walking down the road if he was on a moped in the field? They'll probably have an explanation, because Scott Forbes doesn't think that Jodi Jones was killed in those woods. Scott Forbes has got another explanation, hasn't he? That involves a house in East Houses and a basement.
My. This fruit paste is delicious. And the pottery is lovely.
It's made from guano.
Guano! That sounds so familiar. Bat droppings.
Oh, please, someday, in East Houses, show me your basement. I don't think that exists, does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. We'll get into all his absolute batshit ideas of how things work and how it doesn't make sense. And with some of the transcripts coming out, about the kind of, I don't know, the tests done, you know, post-mortem, that'll also be shot to shit as well, Mr. Forbes, which I can't wait for. Honestly, this is getting easier because there's more people noticing your lies. I do request for all the angry typers out there that are watching this, do pass on all my best to Mr. Forbes. It's been a good run, Mr. Forbes. It's been a good run, Ms. Lean. But it's time for you guys to admit you lied to your own followers, admit to you lied to the public, to the world, about what happened and why you lied as well. Because these all come from who? Luke Mitchell. You are promoting the story of a convicted murderer to line your own pockets with money because you got nothing else going on. Mr. Forbes' 10 grand that he seems to have put to the side for some kind of lie detector tests. Let's see some proof of that, Mr. Forbes. In reality, you've spent all the money that you made for Amazon on what? Coronas and God knows what else. Probably booger sugar, by the way, the absolute crazy ideas that come out your head. But reality is, it's been a good run, guys. Coming to an end. Your carnival is shutting down. There is no tide turning. And I'm going to make a point of going through all the transcripts to show that there's even more lies here, guys. Let's do a wrap up and let's just acknowledge the fact that the Stocky Man story, such a linchpin such a linchpin for Luke's army's whole idea of guilt and who is actually to blame, is founded on lies. There was no spotting, there was no witness at to see it at the funeral, which was the TV footage that Miss Lean did kind of highlight. It was a week later. The funeral was in September. You're mixing two different things, two different descriptions. It's absolute crap. And for people that are still falling for this and don't have time to actually read these stories and notice that even the hair colour doesn't match up, then these guys are lost. These guys are absolutely lost. People that we've pointed out in this, and the guy who's trying to slut shame and everything like that, I'm not even going to mention their names anymore. You know what I mean? Because that's what they want. They want notoriety. They're clout vampires. They're online so they can look like they actually have a clue. Just a bunch of rent opinions with the same defence. Absolutely nothing of substance. Absolutely no proof to back anything up. And they will continually just repeat the same stuff and type stuff in capitals like it makes any difference. So let's not interact with all them. Let's actually just spend our time showing how Scott Forbes and Sandra Lean have lied for years and made money. Now there are some people as well that'll be listening to this that actually did fall for Sandra Lean and Scott Forbes' corny behaviour. I've spoke to a couple of folk online through private messaging and other means where they've kind of told me a little bit of their story. We've not gone in depth at the end of the day. I don't want to just, one-off messages letting me know, well, some of them thanking me as well for some of the stuff I've done, which I appreciate. You guys are more than welcome here, and at the end of the day you guys have a story to tell as well. So don't feel that you need to hide if you do want to comment and you want to share your experience. There are people here who have been fooled by others as well, and we all understand. At the end of the day, you guys have a lived experience as well, which may be beneficial to others who are on the fence here, and you could help and inspire them to get off that fucking crazy train and get back to reality. I've said it in many a video, get off the crazy train. These guys are here just to take your ticket money. They don't want anything else but fame and cash. They're not here for the Jones family, for Jodi. They're not even here for Luke, really. When you put it down to the basic bare bones. They're PNGs. They're all image. That's what they are. Just PNGs. All image. So what do you guys think? Why the big lie about the Stocky man? How has it grown so many arms and legs? How is it a definite that it's this person and it's that person? And where's these witnesses? I keep on saying this, and I've yet to hear about anybody coming forward from the Sandra Lean and Scott Forbes side. Now, Luke's army would also believe that the tide is turning, as they say. The tide is turning, and lots of locals believe that Luke Mitchell is innocent. Well, could one of them speak up, please? Could one of these witnesses come forward and say, yeah, that was me, I seen that, and here's what happened. Me from the future, just thought I'd pop in this little bit here because I didn't mention it during the video. The news report that I read was from the July of 2003, meaning that if the reason was to come back that there was a confusion between the witness supposedly spotting the Stocky man at the funeral, that couldn't have happened because the funeral of course hadn't happened for some weeks after. So there can be no confusion. That's just a twisting of what happened and a twisting of when they were seen again by the witnesses. A lot of confusion when I went back and watched the edit as to what witness saw who, where and when, in terms of what Ms. Lean and Mr. Forbes says, but definitely a twist. They couldn't have seen them at the funeral when it hadn't happened, but it was reported on that they had already seen them again. So again, just a twist in what was actually going on to suit their narrative. But as I say, once I went back and done the edit for the video, I did listen to some of the clips that's in here again, and I had to listen to the Scott Forbes one with James English a couple of times. Still unsuccessful here. So I'm wondering if one of you guys can help me just before we do the wrap up, and I'll play this. Can someone make head nor tails? Can anyone make sense of what Scott Forbes says? Sometimes it doesn't seem like he knows whether he wants to scratch his ass or wind his watch. He's just all over the place. But listen to this, make sense out of this.
One witness says that's definitely Joseph Jones, and then he gets the wrong person. The person he identifies wasn't in the country.
In reality, it's like I said in the very first video I done on this whole thing, Scott Forbes would have you believe, and so would Sandra Lean actually, that there is evidence. They are witnesses. They just stay by their grannies, and you've no met them. It's just all nonsense. The whole, wrapping this up, the Stocky man, we have to look at the fact that they try and shift it into the witness seeing them again at the funeral, because it makes more sense that obviously family members would be there, and we can then pin it on Joseph Jones. In reality, Sandra Lean has tried to pin the Stocky man identification on several people throughout the years, including Stephen Kelly. And there is a certain, I suppose, element of that where they're still trying to add confusion, but that's what this is all about. If you add as much confusion, there's too many questions. You're not questioning Luke Mitchell's lack of alibi, the multiple witnesses that seen him on the day, the lack of clothing, the knife, the witnesses that say that they're true, absolutely everything. Even down to, as we go into the transcripts, the fact that Luke Mitchell was able to identify the body being in the woods from some distance away, in the dark, and didn't even actually go near it. So that's all something, again, we'll get into as well, but that's just some things that they like to ignore in the pursuit of being correct as they see it. But the Stocky man is not Joseph Jones, it's not Stephen Kelly, it's not John Ferris, it's not, who's the other one, Gordon Dickey, it's not James Faulkner, it's not Mark Cain, it's not anyone that they would put it on. It's someone who the police were looking for. We don't know if they traced. They were also at the same time tracing a blonde female who was pushing a buggy at the same time up East Houses Road, who would have seen this man following Jodi. Now there is nothing to say that she was traced, but she could have corroborated that a little bit. Again, I think some of the, we have to take it as when a murder case or an investigation is going on, there are different elements and different information that's put out. Some of that information will work towards a resolution and a solving of the crime. Some of it is just information. And it's, I think what the reality is Ms. Lean and Mr. Forbes are taking some of the information they can then glean to their own kind of story. Some of it involving Mark Cain actually, which I will go into. Ms. Lean still tries to muddy the waters with that on the what's that podcast with the bald chap, the Verbal Effluvia podcast. That's what we'll call it from now on. Verbal Effluvia podcast. She does kind of try and muddy the waters there with Mark Cain. So again, there's a lot of stuff to go into, but I really do want to start getting into the transcripts because there's so much there, and we can maybe do things on the side as well. Sounds a bit naughty. So that's a little wrap up for this one, guys. I really do want to know what you guys think about Stocky Man, the Stocky guy, and
Stocky Man is well known, called the Stocky Man.
See where you guys lie on that one. It's interesting, I think, that they bastardise the actual reports at the time to suit. I mean, even when Ms. Lean was saying it was Stephen Kelly, then he's got a different hair colour from Joseph Jones, so how can it be both? I don't get that, because at the end of well, you're not supposed to get it because you're not supposed to remember that she said it was something else, and she's trying to blame someone else for absolute years until Mr. Forbes came along. In relation as well, quickly, just to go back, I am still looking at the timeline for destroyed evidence. Spoilers, there is nothing illegal in terms of the time frames we're looking at, but it looks strangely like Ms. Lean knew that was always the case before that petition was put in. So that's an interesting one, Ms. Lean. I just need to clarify a couple of things and we'll get on to that one. But it seems like you knew that was happening and you done, again, allow myself a swear because I'm enjoying this one, you done absolutely fuck all to stop that because you weren't interested. You probably thought that then putting in the petition after it and it being turned down, because it was never going to work. 26,000 people signing a petition. There's what? How many million in Scotland? And you can sign that petition when you're abroad, or multiple times. God damn. Petitions and lie detectors. I really hope that I never have any of you as a defence lawyer, because that is a pathetic attempt at defence. Petitions and flipping lie detectors. So. Yeah, I think, again, that's probably a little speculation on my part, but because I can't prove it at the moment, but I firmly believe that Sandra Lean knew those items were getting destroyed, handed in that petition regardless, stood in front of that House of Parliament, shook everybody's hand, cheered and took videos, knowing what was happening behind the scenes. And then Mr. Forbes found out a few months later, and then that, I think, is probably where this relationship seems to have hit the bricks here, guys. I'm quite happy to watch the two of you throw each other under the bus, though, because it makes my videos a little easier. So if Mr. Forbes wants to keep pointing out all the bad things that Ms. Lean does, bash on, Mr. Forbes. Yeah, so that's a wrap up of the Stocky Man sighting, and just a wee rant from me, because this one's the more ridiculous one, because it's such, as I say, a major linchpin. And none of it matches up with reality. They make a point of sharing, bits of Sandra Lean's book or bits of Scott Forbes' book. Share the news reports that spoke about it at the time, guys. The hair colour doesn't even match up. Why are you not seeing that? But yes, thank you for listening to this video, guys. I hope you guys have got some kind of clarity as to how these old things get confused, mixed up, and well, we know it's all lies, but what's even the reasoning behind this being I don't get this. This is one of the more confusing ones for me, because none of it matches up with reality. None of it. But it's so major. The idea as well that Stocky, S-T-O-C-K-Y, has become S-T-A-L-K-Y, is very telling of Luke's army as well, because they want to paint the darkest picture they can. It's two different meanings. Stocky with an O, obviously it's kind of a big guy, kind of big built, maybe like brick shit house. That's a placebo song, isn't it? Brick shit house, yes. Or Stocky with an A-L-K-Y is obviously gives you that idea, some leery, creepy kind of, like almost child catcher type imagery. So that's done by design as well, designed by liars. One of those liars is the slut shamer, actually, but at the same time, I think, like I said, and again we'll go back to this, where he's fucking stupid. That's just reality, arguing black as white. So let me know what you think here, guys. I would ask if you are really considering kind of telling your story and you don't want to say it, in the comments, you can message me on X and on Facebook. I would be interested in hearing your story, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to be sharing it on this channel. I haven't shared any so far. If you guys want me to, then you absolutely can. Just message me on X or on Facebook. Or again, if you really want to share your story publicly, you can. Please leave a comment below. Regardless, you should be leaving a comment below anyway, guys, and let me know what you think of Stocky Man. How much bullshit is this to you guys? It's not a non-starter for me. Absolute non-starter. the idea that Joseph Jones, this whole imagery, he might have had a backpack, or he definitely had a backpack. Why did he have a backpack? Because apparently he had a cutlass in there, judging by Scott and his stage directions.
I do that with my hands.
But yeah, that's kind of, I mean, what do you guys think of the Stocky Man sighting? What do you think of the fact that it's such a linchpin? Why does the stories of these two folks not actually match up? And yes, that'll kind of do for us on this one. Right, as I say, leave a comment below. Obviously, leave a sarcastic thumbs up. I don't believe I have to say that right now. And, of course, do not be a derrick. And enjoy the rest of your day.